Could Isaac Brown become the greatest Louisville running back of all time?
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Card Nation, what's going on, everyone? Welcome into this Thursday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. This is my 6th year covering the University of Louisville, 4th year hosting this show. And I want to take the time to thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, Locked On Louisville, free and available on all streaming services, including YouTube, 5 days a week, your team every day. Closer and closer to kicking off the 2025 season. Louisville versus Eastern Kentucky, 3 o'clock on Saturday. We are going to have our final off-season weekly mailbag. We'll have a question about if Isaac Brown can become the U of L RB GOAT. We'll discuss a big-time men's basketball official visit. There's a question about balancing the perception of the ACC versus parity and having a better chance of getting to the conference championship game, and much more. 8 total questions, 2 in the first segment, 3 in the second, and 3 in the third. Mixture of men's basketball and football questions. We begin on the football side of things, where when I saw this question come across, I immediately thought it was too soon. That question being, could Isaac Brown become the best Louisville football running back of all time? And I thought, after his freshman season, I feel like that's kind of way too early to have that conversation. And then I looked at the numbers and I was like, well, I mean, you look at the rushing numbers, right? Last season as a true freshman, he set the record for freshman rushing yards. He had 1,173. Assuming that he only stays 3 seasons, and assuming that, let's just say that he duplicates what he did last year and has 1,173 yards the next 2 seasons, that puts him at 3,519, which would be second all-time in a career, behind Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, 4,132. But that would allow him to surpass Nathan Poole, who's got just about 3,000. That would allow him to surpass Walter Peacock, who's got 3,204, both of those guys playing in the 1970s. And he would have the most rushing yards out of any running back in program history. So that alone, of course, we're trying not to let nostalgia get in the way here, trying to look at this, but also not have recency bias be a thing either. So he would have the statistical numbers. And then you look at rushing touchdowns. Lamar has 50. Malik Cunningham has 50. Lenny Lyles with 42. Michael Bush had, 38? 39. Eric Shelton had 30. So it kind of makes you wonder, well, how's that going to work, right? Like, is he going to be able to get to that number? And I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure. We'll see. Last year, he had 11 touchdowns. If he gets over 30 rushing touchdowns, is that going to be enough? Like, if he gets the rushing yards record, but only has, 30 touchdowns or so, which would put him at, tied for 5th. I mean, I would say that gives you a good shot. Not to mention, it's not all just going to be based upon stats. Like, let's say that he has the rushing record for running backs after his Louisville career. Maybe he doesn't have it for rushing touchdowns, but perhaps he placed himself into the Heisman conversation. And it's very challenging at this point for running backs to be in that conversation. Like, it is an award that's not built for running backs to be involved in. So if he's in Heisman consideration, if he wins All-American honors, if he wins other awards like all ACC teams, I mean, it's going to be a matter of opinion because the GOAT discussion is never really clear cut, or if it is, it's not often that that's the case. So even Lamar Jackson's standpoint, like he has a Heisman Trophy. I mean, probably the best Louisville football player in my lifetime, and some don't think that he's the best quarterback that Louisville has ever had. Some believe it's Chris Redmond or Teddy Bridgewater or, Brian Brom. The list goes on. That it just goes to show you, I don't really care who you think is the GOAT Louisville quarterback. I just bring that up to suggest that even if Isaac breaks some of these records, I'm not sure that he's ever, unless he just blows them out of the water, I'm not sure that he's ever going to be like unanimously regarded as the Louisville GOAT running back. But I think that it very well could be a conversation after next year to where things look really, really possible. So, second question. I know that you have Louisville predicted to lose 2 games, Clemson and SMU. If I were to tell you that the Cardinals go 9-3 while also losing to those 2 teams, who would that loss be to? Who would the third loss be to? What would your prediction be? I think it would be Miami. I've been pretty vocal that I'm not a huge believer in Mario Cristobal. I just think of those 3 teams, Miami is most likely to underachieve. But again, if you play the devil's advocate, as possible as that is, there's also a very real possibility that Miami has a really good team. They have a ton of talent, new defensive coordinator, right? If he can unlock that unit that has Ruben Bain and some other talented transfers, other talented guys coming back, yes, they replace a ton on offense. And even that might be an understatement. But Carson Beck has had some success in the SEC. And if he's able to stay healthy, probably going to be a pretty good quarterback in the conference. Not to mention the talented players that they have coming in and perhaps the best offensive line in the conference. So even though I think a loss to SMU and a loss to Clemson are both more likely than a loss to Miami, that game against the Hurricanes isn't going to be easy. I still think the Hurricanes have a quality team. I just don't think that they are one of the top 10 best teams in the country, in my opinion. I think they're closer to 20 than they are 10. And I know that there are some Miami fans in the comments that said, well, you doubted Miami last year. And I did, and I ate crow for that. I admitted it. But this isn't the Miami team of last year, unless you're trying to tell me that Carson Beck is going to be the number 1 pick. And all the guys you replace collectively, this year's team is going to be better. Now, offense, you take a step back. Defense, you're probably going to take a step forward. So, again, it's going to be a challenging game. I'm not suggesting the contrary. But I do think that Louisville has a better shot to beat Miami than it does SMU and Clemson. And I think part of that is because of the matchups. Like SMU's high tempo offense with a quarterback that can extend plays and extend drives with his legs. And then you have a Clemson team that's going to be an absolute wagon this year. So if you tell me that Louisville loses another game and they go 9-3, I would immediately think that the other loss would come to Miami. In the event that it's not Miami, then you're looking at the Cardinals falling victim to the trap game for the 3rd consecutive season and all of the seasons in the Jeff Brom era. So I immediately look at Virginia Tech on the road, which is likely going to be the Cardinals' most challenging road game because of the atmosphere, challenging road game atmosphere. Maybe not the most challenging road game, but the most challenging atmosphere that you're going to have to play in on the road. Maybe Pittsburgh because it's early on, and if you give up big plays on the defensive side, then things get pretty interesting. And then you lose a game outside of that, and it's just complete disaster, right? So I would say Miami, and then if you made me rank the top 3, it'd be Miami, number 1, Virginia Tech, number 2, and probably Pittsburgh, number 3. So don't go anywhere. When we come back, we have 3 questions. One regarding a big-time men's basketball official visit slated for this weekend. We'll discuss more when we come back on this Thursday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. Card Nation, first I want to take the time to tell you about our friends over at Upside. Are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time that you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited promo code FOOTBALL and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon in your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas you already needed. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or even an e-gift card for Amazon or other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using my limited time promo code FOOTBALL for a limited 25 cent per gallon bonus. That's the promo code FOOTBALL. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. While I have you, I want to take the time to tell you about our friends over at SupplyHouse. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with SupplyHouse. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. I'm not really great at this, but I started a home improvement DIY back in early August and realized that I didn't have the necessary parts to complete it about halfway through. So I went to SupplyHouse, and man, talk about a game changer. The next day delivery was absolutely incredible, and I was able to finish things in a timely manner. So join the free Trademaster program today. Score some serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit SupplyHouse.com. Sign up for free and use the promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's SupplyHouse.com. Real people, real service. We have an important request, Card Nation. Locked On wants to hear from you. We put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. If you go to lockedonpodcasts.com/survey to get started, everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcasts with an S.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes and the QR code at the bottom of this graphic. But thank you so much for helping out. We're going to continue along in this 8-question weekly mailbag, final weekly mailbag of the off season. 3 questions this segment. The Cardinals have a big-time official visit set for this weekend. Should Colben Landrew be a top target for Pat Kelsey and the Cardinals staff? Colben Landrew, one of the highest risers of the AAU circuit this past summer. He is making an official visit to Louisville this weekend. And to answer the viewer's question, I think he's already a top priority. 6'6", 205 pounds, a player that the Cardinals offered in the summer. He actually, what I find interesting is I read something somewhere that he was a visitor for the football program when the Cardinals beat Notre Dame in 2023. So it's nice to see him back on campus. I personally think, from talking to some people in the recruiting industry, I think he's going to end up as a top 25 player. So plays at Wheeler High School out in Marietta, Georgia, north of Atlanta. I think that he is one of the best wing prospects in the country. Even if you are prioritizing Tyron Stokes, I think that Landrew is a guy that you can prioritize as well. So yes, by all means, Louisville should definitely make him one of the top targets in the 2026 cycle. He does have a lot of other official visits currently set up. In order: Mississippi State, Georgia, A&M, Alabama, and Auburn. What is up with the SEC stuff? My gosh. It's Louisville and a bunch of SEC schools at the moment. But anyways, this is going to be a recruitment that I would love to see Louisville try to push for that commitment early on. I just feel like the floor is high with him. but the ceiling is incredible as well. So a guy that could come in and play right away. He's ranked as the 61st best player, according to the 24/7 Sports Composite. He's going to end up much higher than that. I'd say I would be very surprised if he's not top 35 in this class on almost every ranking. So I would say, yes, he should be a top target. Will the Louisville Cardinals cover the spread against Eastern Kentucky? Now, when I looked up this spread back on Monday, it was set at 38.5. As of last night, it is still at 38.5. The total point line is set for 56.5. I think that Louisville covers this spread. I think that this could be one of those Austin P level scores that you saw from last year, to where Louisville pitched a shutout, but they scored 62 points. In the first half, it was 38-0. I would envision something along those lines, that they honestly might be able to cover the spread in the first half. Now, that's a little challenging because that's a lot of points to be scored, but I do think that the Cardinals cover. I'm not sure that they're going to pitch a shutout. I'm not sure that they're going to do that because, garbage time will be a thing. Like, Louisville will be cycling through their depth, and they have a ton of transfers. So, it might take some time for everyone to gel. Like, I could see Eastern Kentucky scoring 7, maybe 10 points. But in the same line, I think Louisville is going to score probably north of 50. And assuming that they do that, I don't feel like Eastern Kentucky is going to score more than 10. So, yes, I do feel like the Cardinals are going to cover the spread, and it wouldn't surprise me if it's much more than a 38.5 point victory for the Cardinals. Will this game decide the backup quarterback battle? At the moment, as good as Deuce Adams was in the offseason and fall camp, it feels like Brady Allen is QB2, at least at the moment. Now, it could be a situation where you look at that depth chart and it's going to say Brady Allen or Deuce Adams. But the reason why I think this game is critical is because you're going to see not only Brady, not only Deuce, but hypothetically also Mason Mims get some work in this game. He can play against Eastern Kentucky and still maintain that red shirt. It's going to be pretty solid reps. But will that same thing happen during James Madison week? Probably not. James Madison is probably a top 50 team according to metrics. Now, Louisville could win that game in blowout fashion, but is it going to be enough of a blowout where both Allen and Deuce Adams are going to get some run? And then you've got Bowling Green. So I think that Bowling Green could be a game to where guys get some opportunity, but I don't know that this game in itself is going to decide this, because there's more opportunities. At least I feel like I'm looking at that Bowling Green game thinking that if all goes well, if all goes according to plan, Adams and Allen are both going to get at least a couple drives in that game. Now, I could be wrong. And if that's the case, that's where we kind of risk it, because outside of Eastern Kentucky, if James Madison and Bowling Green State are competitive, then chances are you're going to see Miller Moss for the vast majority of that game, if not the entirety of the game. So I'm going to say I'm on the fence, but I'm not going to, take a cop-out. I think that I'm going to say no, this isn't going to decide the backup quarterback battle unless, here's the caveat, unless that one of the players absolutely shines and the other one plays the exact opposite, just absolutely struggles. Like if Deuce Adams comes out, leads a couple of big-time drives, couple touchdowns, and Brady Allen just can't get the ball moving, makes mistakes, turns the ball over, holds on to the ball too long, takes a couple sacks, or vice versa, then there might be a discussion to be had. But at the moment, I think it's going to be one that just extends to the first part of the season. So, got 3 more questions, all on the football side, talking about the perception versus the parity of the conference. is there added pressure on Ron English over the past couple of days? And also, what about the top 25? We'll ask those questions and attempt to answer them when we come back on this Thursday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. But first, I want to take the time to tell you about our friends over at Gametime. Look, it's that time of the year. College football's back. I couldn't be even more excited as I am if I tried. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's nothing like it. But let's be real, actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself, with the endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Gametime. It's the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. I pulled up Gametime, and in just a couple taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about watching the Louisville Cardinals play for lower than any other site out there. That's what I like the most, is that the Gametime prices actually go down as the game gets closer. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's the promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. Card Nation, on tomorrow's show, Grant Mulligan makes his appearance after a little bit of a short hiatus. And what better way for him to come onto the show than to have a full EKU preview? We're going to have some buy sells, a signature segment with him. We'll discuss what we are hoping to see, a little bit more in depth on score predictions and the spread, and some players to watch for, all coming up on the show tomorrow. But we have a couple of questions left to answer. The first one: should we cheer for the top of the ACC to win a ton of games so it helps the perception of the conference as it relates to the college football playoff, or should we cheer against the ACC because it creates an easier road to the ACC championship game and thus the college football playoff? Man, that is a really, really good question, because I don't think that there's a wrong answer. I think that the ACC's perception being so low hurts the conference, and you're kind of stuck in no man's land, right? Between a rock and a hard place. Do you cheer for the ACC to be able to, have those big time wins, and it helps the perception, so Louisville will thus benefit from that? Or are you cheering for Clemson, Miami, and SMU to lose games, and then it would help the Cardinals get back to Charlotte? I think that there's a fine line. I'm cheering for the ACC to win the non-conference games. That's where I'm drawing the line in the sand. Like Miami against Notre Dame, Clemson against LSU, SMU against, whoever they play. That's where I'm kind of drawing a line in the sand. Now, when you get to conference play, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to find myself rooting for Clemson, Miami, SMU, Georgia Tech, Florida State, any of those teams that have a chance to get back to Charlotte, or to get to Charlotte, I should say, because it's going to hurt the Cardinals. I don't care how good the conference is if Louisville's on the outside looking in, because that's really not going to benefit anything. So, yeah, at the moment, I'm going to say I'm cheering for the conference to do well in non-conference games, but when you get to conference play, I'm cheering for the underdog against the top teams. With Ashton Gelati, Corey Thornton, and Quincy Riley making their respective 53-man NFL rosters, and it kind of, once again, highlighting how Ron English did less with more last year, is there any added pressure on the defense? I mean, I think there's already enough pressure. Like, everyone knows that this is a season that, I mean, you have to watch out for, right? So I'm going to say that, I mean, I don't think there's added pressure. I think it kind of confirms like the notion that English did less with more last year. And it kind of does make you question, okay, well, why was he brought back? Well, Braum and company have to have a really good plan for this year, because you don't want the defensive side of the ball to derail what could be a very successful and possible college football playoff level season. So I don't think this in itself adds any more pressure. I think that it is already a situation where there's enough pressure as it is. So, final question. Buy or sell? The Louisville Cardinals will be in the top 25 after this week. Oof, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. Because, I mean, is Kansas State going to drop out of the top 25 after losing to a ranked Iowa State team? Probably not. So that's kind of a moot point. But is anyone else in the top 25 going to lose and drop out? I mean, Indiana plays Old Dominion, so they're probably not losing. Number 21, Ole Miss plays Georgia State, so they're probably not losing. Iowa State is playing against South Dakota. They're probably going to be 2-0, and they're going to move up. Is Kansas State going to lose the second game? They play North Dakota, so probably not. Continuing to go down the line, Texas Tech, number 23, they take on Arkansas Pine Bluff. It's probably a win for the Red Raiders. Tennessee at number 24 plays Syracuse. Now, that's an interesting game because it's not like, I don't feel like a gimme game. It's played in Mercedes-Benz Stadium down in Atlanta, so it's not going to be totally a cakewalk. It could be a loss because there's a new quarterback. And if that's the case, let's say Tennessee loses, that's opportunistic. And Boise State is playing at South Florida at Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, so not going to be an easy game. The Bulls bring back some key pieces, but Boise State's solid. So if those two teams lose, is Louisville going to be able to rise up in the rankings? Don't forget, BYU, Utah, and Baylor also are playing this week, and they are ahead of Louisville in the other receiving votes category. BYU takes on, who is that? Portland State. They're not losing that first game. You look at Baylor. Now, Baylor has Auburn week 1. I think that it is a home game, right? Is that a home game for Baylor? Yeah, it's in McLean Stadium. That's a home game. So if Baylor loses that game, they could drop a little bit, at least below Louisville. And then you look at the Utah football schedule, and their first game is at UCLA. So the opportunity is there. But I'm going to sell it week 1 because I think the chances that Tennessee, Boise State, Utah, and Baylor, I don't know that all those teams are going to lose. So I'm going to sell it for the time being. Like, it's not something that I feel like is going to be a huge sell, but I don't know. And don't forget, I mean, there's also a chance for another team to jump the Cardinals. Like, Louisville had 90 receiving votes. Georgia Tech has 63. Georgia Tech starts the season out at Colorado tomorrow evening. So if they get that victory over Colorado, Louisville beats Eastern Kentucky. Is that victory over the Buffaloes going to be enough to allow them to leapfrog the Louisville Cardinals? So there's like so much that the Cardinals aren't controlling here. I'm going to say no week 1 with the possibility of happening week 2. So I'm going to sell it for now. Would it surprise me if they got into the back end of the top 25? I mean, maybe, but it wouldn't be like the largest shocker ever. So I'm going to sell it right now. But guys, when we come back, it's what we've all been waiting for, and that is officially game prep. EKU coming up 48 hours. We'll see you right back here tomorrow for the final offseason episode of the Locked On Louisville podcast. Go Cards.